Now let's first look at what do we mean by value label. A value label is meant to assign labels to values of numerical categorical variables. So if we contrast this to a variable label is just meant to be a short description of a variable, and you can assign it to a numerical or string variables. So like it can apply to any numerical or string variables. But value labels will only be assigning labels to numerical categorical variables, right? So they're specifically for them. So we just want to assign labels to their values, and we look at what this means in more detail in an example. Okay, let's just look at this example to see what this exactly means. Like if we look at this data set now, if I do browse, so over here we can see okay, we have this variable married. Now, because now this is a numerical, so this is a numerical variable with value labels. That's why you can also see this in blue color. How do we know that? Like over here, notice that when I press single, so I get a zero over here. So it is a numerical variable which had a value zero, and we assigned a label of single to it. So I press married, right? So it is a numerical variable which had one for married, and we applied a value to it, right? It's not a numerical variable with value labels, right? Like for example, similarly, if you look at college grad, right, this is also a numerical variable, with value labels, right? If I press not college grad, you will notice we get a zero here. So it's a numerical variable which had a value zero, and it had a value label not college grad assigned to it. Similarly, if you press college grad, so it had a value one, the numerical variable with the value label college grad assigned to it, right? So it's applied to such variables where you assign value labels to them. So now, how do we see all assigned value labels? To see all assigned value labels, what you can do is you can just do label list. It will show you the name as well as the contents assigned to each value label. Contents inside each value label. If you want to look at a specific value label, now if we do describe, it will only show us the name of the value labels. Like if we do describe, over here. So it is showing us the value labels assigned to which, right? We can see over here, married has this value label, more label assigned to which, college grad has this label, grad label assigned to it. So it will only show us the name of the value labels. If we want to see the contents inside it, then for that, what we can do is we can do label list and the name of the value label, right? So either you just do label list, it will show you the name and contents. If you do describe, it will show you the names, and you want to look at the contents inside a specific one, then you can do label list, name of the value label that you saw in describe. Like in this example, if I do label list, here you can see we see all value labels and the contents inside them. Like we see there's one value label, union label, and it assigns non-union to zero, right? So you had this variable which had a value zero. To that, this value label assigns the label non-union, and to one it assigns the label union. So similarly, we have, for example, we saw the married label. So it assigns single to zero and married to one. Like grad label assigns not college grad to zero, college grad to one, right? So basically, so we're assigning labels to the values of the numeric variable, right? Like we saw. And obviously, if I wanted to look at the contents inside a specific value label, we will do label list and name of the value label. Like in this case, if I do grad label, so it's telling me it's assigning not college grad to the value zero, and it's assigning the label college grad to the value one. Now, how do we assign value labels? It's a two-step process. In the first step, we define the value label. How do we do that? We do label, then we do define. We give a name to the value label, whatever name we want. And then we specify the first value that categorical variable takes. Let's assume it's taking a value one, like one of the values. So we specify one of the values of the categorical variable. Let's assume it's taking a value one. So we'll write that value it takes, and in double quotation marks, we will write the label we want to specify. Like if I was creating this label, so we would have done label define grad label. That's the name we have created for it. It could be any name you want. And then for zero, we would have written zero and in double quotation marks, not college grad. And then one in double quotation marks, college grad. So basically what you're doing is you're writing label defined, any name you want to assign to it. Then you specify the value of your categorical variable, and then in double quotation marks, the label you want to assign to it. Then you specify the other value of your categorical variable and the label you want to assign to it. So in this case, it would have been like we mentioned, label define grad label, zero double quotation marks not college grad, one double quotation marks college grad. So that's the first step of defining it. After defining it, you have to assign it to the variable also. For that, what you do is now instead of doing label define, you will do label value, and then you write the name of the variable to which you want to attach this value label. Once you attach it to that variable, so then whichever variable you assign to it, wherever it has a value zero, it will have a label not college grad. Wherever it has a value one, it will have a label college grad. And then you just write the name of the value label over here in from step one. So for example, in this case, let's say we create this new variable full time from hours, right? Which takes a value one if you're working more than 30 hours, and otherwise it takes value zero. Say I want to create a value label to it. So first I'll create a value label. So label defined, and then I'm naming this value label ours label. I wanted to assign yes to 1 and no to 0. So we have done that, right? So now when we do this step, we will notice that no changes happen to the variable. If I do still describe and the variable that I created full time, there's no value label attached to it because the first step we've only defined that. But if I do label list, I will notice, okay, I will see that we will see the label we created, right? So we have created that value label. So it will show in label list because it is a value label that now exists. But I haven't yet assigned it to any variable. So that's why in describe, we could not see it assigned to full time yet. We just created it. So it's there, right? Here ours label. We can see that it's assigning a no to 0 and yes to 1. So what now I'm going to do is in the next step, we're going to assign it to full-time hours, right? So we're going to assign it to full-time. So we're going to write label value. We're going to write the name of the variable, which is full-time. And then I'm going to write the name of the label that we just created in step 1, ours label. Once we do this, now you will notice the changes happen. Now if I do describe, you will notice you can see the value label attached to it, ours label, right? So we have assigned the value label to it. And if we do browse, now we will see if we're doing browse. Now wherever full time, we can see wherever it takes a value 1, we get a yes. Wherever it takes a value 0, we get a no. So we've assigned a value label to it now. So that's how we can create a value label in Stata. Now, once you create a value label, you can assign it to multiple variables as well, which have the same coding scheme. If I had other variables for which I also had like 1 and 0, and I wanted yes for 1 and I wanted to assign a label no to 0, so we did not have to create new labels and assign them every single time. We could have assigned the same value label we just created. So we can just create a single value label and apply it to all variables that we want. The way we will do that is, so let's apply. Let's say we created two new variables. We created one variable low experience, which takes a value 1 if your total experience is less than 5 years, and otherwise it takes a value 0. So if we create this variable here, and then let's say we create another variable long tenure, which takes a value 1 if tenure is greater than is at least 5 years, and otherwise it takes a value 0. So now I want to assign, now I also want to, now over here right now, if you notice, there are no value labels in there, right? Low experience, like there are no value labels, right? It's taking values zeros and like zeros and ones, and so there's no value label yet assigned to it. We can see from here, right? So now what we want to do is, now I want a value label such that it takes a value 1, such that we want to assign labels to both of these new variables such that 0 is assigned the label no and 1 is assigned the label yes. Now we already created such a label over here, right, when we were assigning a value label to full time. So instead of creating a new label, we can use that exact same variable. The way we can easily do it is we just write label, we will write values again like we do over here, label value, and then we'll just write the name of all the variables over here, right? So you basically provide a list of all variables you want to assign the value label to. Over there we just wanted to assign it to full time, so we wrote full time. Here we want to assign it to both low experience and long tenure, and then you just write the name of the value label you want to assign to these variables, right? Here we only need to do one step because you already created the value label. The first step is to define the value label. Once you have a value label created, then you can just assign it to as many variables as you want. So here, because we already had ours label created, so we did not need to do step 1. It's already defined, it's already there. Now we just need to assign it to more variables, right? So once you create it, then you can assign it to as many variables as you want. And we can just simply provide a list here of all the variables you want to assign it to. Now if I do cti plus t, and now if we do browse, we'll notice that now we can see that 0 is being assigned a value of no. And similarly, wherever it sees 1, it will assign it a value of yes. So this is how we can assign. Obviously, the other way to do this was that we could have assigned separately to each as well. We could have done label value. We could have done low experience, ours label, label value, long tenure, ours label, but there's no need of that. You can just do label values, provide the list of all the variables like we did over here, and then just write the name of the value label. It will assign to each one of them. So you have to first create the value label, you define it, right? So that's first step, right? You create it so that, and when you do label list, now you'll be able to see it. And once you define it, you can assign it to as many variables as you want. You just do label values, you give a list of all the variables, then write the name of the value label you created. Obviously, you would only assign it to multiple variables if they had similar coding schemes. Like over here, for all three variables, we wanted a label yes attached to 1 and no attached to 0. So obviously, they have the same coding schemes, then you can use the same value label.